Well, welcome everybody to our today's session of Meet the Artists here in the Yiddish Summer Weimar. Something that we're doing on the air this year, streamed for the first time, thanks to the encouragement and the project management of Craig Udelman, who's behind the laptop. And which took some convincing of me, because Yiddish Summer Weimar is all about people coming together and meeting and having real, genuine meetings with each other and learning from each other and everything that can happen when you're with somebody, really. You know, all the things that you see and the things that you don't see, everything that happens sort of in the background. And I was always afraid that streaming would mess that up, or that people wouldn't get a real good feeling of that. But then I realized, actually, Craig and Ilya and a number of people said, Alan, this is really not cool to not let anybody feel that just because their country doesn't let them travel because of Corona. So open it up. And that convinced me. So here we are.
Here we are.
Here we are. And today's special guest, and for me truly a very special guest, is Polina Shepard. I think that everybody knows how great Paulina Shepard is, but they just don't know how great she is. And actually, no matter how great you think she is, she's greater than that. I have enormous respect for Paulina as a singer, as a composer, as a pianist, as a colleague. Really, I think Paulina is just really blows me away every time that I hear you perform or anything that you do. And Paulina is also one of these people that you can say, hey, could you do this little thing artistically? And then she'll come back and it's 10 times better than you thought that it could be, always. It's really amazing. So you're here in several capacities this year. So first of all, we weren't even sure whether you were going to get out of England until the day before, basically, you came.
That was amazing, actually.
Do you want to tell that story?
Oh, I guess a lot of our people were on the same boat as me.
Yeah.
Just waiting if they would come or not, and having put 6 weeks of my life, of my summer aside for this, I was quite upset to know about this Delta virus, and we couldn't travel to Germany. I was quite upset, and I was also very, very, very happy when it became possible, although it was quite stressful to suddenly prepare and buy the ticket, and here I am. But I think it was an amazing, interesting journey just to come here,
yeah.
Internally and logistically and in all possible ways. I'm really happy.
Well, I had a little talk with Boris, and I said, you're going to have to lift those restrictions because otherwise we're not going to get Paulina here.
How about
and
Angela?
He said, well, Angela, I guess she was already on that page, sorry. But no, so I remember, you know, we were talking about once a week in the weeks before you're coming, looking every day at what's happening with Corona and travel restrictions. And we had actually even reached the point where I remember Sasha and I had a call with you and we said, Paulina, we're so sorry, but it's just not going to work out and we're going to have to. And I was waiting to see if Paulina's going to take that like a brave soldier and say, okay, well, next year. But she didn't take it that way at all. And she was very upset. And I said, all right, if it matters that much to you, we're just going to keep trying and holding on. And then a miracle happened, and so you got to be here. And you're here because you're part of the Song Project, where you did already phenomenal work, and that's online, which we can hear. And because you teach choir here every year, and because at the last minute, you jumped in for a colleague of ours, Sarah Meyerson, who was going to do the Caravan Orchestra, who wasn't able to for unpredictable reasons. And so you jumped in for her on top of that, meaning that you're actually 3 or 4 different people here wandering around in one body, right?
Yes, I don't know if it actually feels like a few certainly different parallel universes happening.
I can imagine. Oh, we're joined by Jiryis.
I got
Ballan.
lost.
Okay, that's okay. Please come and sit next to us here on this chair. Maybe you can pull that over so it's a little closer.
Come. Well, you know, Yiddish Summer Weimar can be unpredictable, and this year is how is this year different from any other year?
Right.
You know, it is really different, and I think we are all keeping in mind that we need to be flexible and creative. Isn't it what we like? You know, being creative not just with our music, but with our time and our artistic connections, what we do, how we do. Right? Hello.
Hi,
How are you this
Polina.
morning?
Isn't she amazing?
She is totally
Aren't
amazing.
you amazing? We had a great
And so are
concert
you.
yesterday.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I heard about it, but
Yeah.
let's hear about it. First of all, tell us who you are.
Hello everyone, I am Jiryis Ballan from Nazareth, the Galley, but now I live in California. I'm a composer basically, but I play the buzuk as well, which is rare, and I think the buzuk made my way to Caravan Orchestra.
Okay. And Jiryis has been with the Caravan Orchestra since the very first year.
Correct, yeah.
He and Ilya were the founders, founding music directors of the Caravan Orchestra. So this is your third year or fourth year? Fourth year with Caravan Orchestra.
Yes.
It's so great that you're back.
I mean,
The continuity is super, super important. That there are some people who, because the Caravan Orchestra is open to new participants each year, and some people who are over the age of 26 officially aren't allowed to be in it anymore. So that means that's okay. Officially, it makes room for some new people to come in. And I think to have the leadership of at least some people who are there all the time is very, very important.
yeah, I mean, I just feel so lucky to be in a project like this. I always remember, the first time Dr. Abigail from Haifa University offered this project, and in my head I thought it's just going to be a summer camp for kids with music, but I never imagined it's going to be something magical, I could say, and as I always say, and beautiful, because in many different ways it is beautiful. It's also very exhausting, but the good way, the good thing of exhausting. I mean, I sleep so good. I always have black wrinkles under my eyes in the Caravan Orchestra, but in a serious note, yeah, it is something that people, I think, look for it in different platforms, and we offer something that it is maybe doesn't really exist right now in the world in the music everywhere. Everything inside categories, and we are creating new category, if you want to say, or something without category. So you feel freedom. I mean, it doesn't matter if you are a musician or a Jewish musician or musician who play hybrid music. You come to a place that you have no category, and this is where creativity comes.
That's wonderful. So I think some people watching may not have any idea what the Caravan Orchestra is.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe you can even just say the basics of what the Caravan Orchestra is, and then say that it's actually not that. But like, what's the basic idea of the Caravan Orchestra?
I love this one.
Okay.
No, so Caravan Orchestra, it's a multicultural music ensemble, if you want to say, or orchestra, and there have been a lot of mixed orchestras, and when we say mixed, we could say mixed in music genre, or mixed in nationality or ethnic background. But Caravan Orchestra, they say, okay, let's bring 15 people who are Jewish and Arabs, Palestinians from Israel, and musicians who live in Europe, because not all the musicians are European. We have people from Korea also. And in the first, so in very short, in the first glance, you think, it's going to be another political project. Like, let's bring people together and speak about peace. So, we could go for study, maybe, diplomatic studies, not music studies. But here, Caravan Orchestra say, no, let's meet and let's play music traditions that usually maybe are not that much performed or played, but they speak about our own roots and our own identity and new identity. New musical identity. So, without making too much philosophical one, it's 15 musicians that come from Israel and from Arab towns and from Jewish towns, and 50 musicians from here, and we bring repertoires from both sides. It could be something authentic, and could be something modern, and we do it in our own way.
And musicians from Palestine too, right?
I mean, yeah. This is the thing that we are not political project, but the group that coming from Israel, they suddenly see, okay, there's two people that live next to each other, but we don't meet, or we don't do anything that it is. We don't have orchestras that doesn't have a governmental agency. We are our own agencies there, and it's not easy sometimes, but it's nice because you just have a chance to play other people's music that you didn't have there from both sides.
So I think I would say that at least in the idea of the Caravan Orchestra that Andreas and Abigail and I developed, that it was also meant not to be political in this sense. The music is not supposed to demonstrate politics, never. But on the other hand, I think we all believe that what we experience of ourselves and what we experience of the other people that we don't know, is what we draw from later when we form political ideas about something. And so to transform people on that level eventually has an effect on a political level as well.
Of course. I mean, Polina can maybe talk about the how she saw with the singers, but I will tell you about my part when working with the instrumentalists. Beside all these ideas about differences, by the end we are musicians.
Right.
And by the end of the road, we are allowed to have fun, and it's not a shame to say we come to Caravan to have fun, and to come to Caravan to have some kind of professional experience of being a musician, which is very limited back in Israel for both people. And this is the music, and this is what is my focus.
Good.
That there is multicultural ensemble, that they deal with the conflicts in their own way. That's amazing. We deal with it. We sit at lunch and dinners and we talk about it. But whenever we're in the rehearsal room, we're in the rehearsal room.
You're being musicians.
Because I think it's not fair not to give the musicians who come from conflict place the chance to experience, and to talk and to play music and express together.
And by the way, we see Weimar. One of the possibilities that Weimar offers is to be a, let's say, relatively neutral place where people, because this is not the place where that conflict is happening, and people have a little bit less pressure on themselves in order to be able to talk and hear. But yes, now I want to ask you, Paulina. So Jiryis has been with us for 4 years, and you're coming to this for the first time. And we should say Caravan Orchestra and Choir.
Choir, exactly.
I'm not used
voice
to that.
Ensemble.
What?
Or voice ensemble.
And vocal ensemble. I'm not used to that because the first year it was just instrumental.
Yes.
And then the second year we opened it up for voice, I think. Second year, third year. And the last 2 years for sure it's been voice. So what has been your experience of just coming into this
I knew about this project just from reading about it on the internet and seeing little bits and pieces from previous years. I never experienced your rehearsals or your concerts. And it was an amazing experience to just come in and hear the band. The orchestra this year is just amazing musicians, and the singers are fantastic. The 11 young women I met in this group are amazing. There is no politics, not in that group at all. All the little difficulties in that group are about personalities and singers being, soloists. And divas, but they are so great, and they're all aware of it, right?
Oh my God!
So,
thank you for
you're
mentioning
such a
this.
soloist. Yes, I know I'm a soloist, but now you sing in the choir. I know I sing in the choir. Let's make it into a choir, okay? And so it's a great personal and musical experience for the group. They all come from different musical backgrounds, apart from cultural backgrounds. There's jazzers, there is Arabic, beautiful maqamat singers. There are girls from classical backgrounds who really read music, but improvisation is difficult for them, so we throw them together and see what happens, right? It's absolutely open to anything.
Well, and not just anyone could handle that. And I think it's very important for the voice people, for the singers, that they recognize that you yourself are a person, first of all, who has a very broad background in music, second of all, who is a stunning soloist, and third of all, who is beautiful working in a choir ensemble as well. So you're a model, for them in this way of what they can be. They don't have to feel they have to give up one thing in order to be this. They can just become something more. They can just add something. Do you think that's true?
I hope so. I'm doing my best.
I'm sure you're doing it.
I hope
so.
You
are.
Well, I heard good things from them after our first concert, which was a challenge, of course. It was the first, the program is thrown together in such a short period of time, a lot of rehearsal, but I think it was great energy.
It was really good energy.
Really great energy.
And there's 2 more people. We should mention them.
Yes,
here.
of course.
Yeah, of course.
Ilya Shneyveys.
Shneyveys.
Okay.
That he is. I feel like I'm so lucky that I found this great musical partner 4 years ago, and we met in Haifa, and it's really one of the best people to work with. And I also, Polina, I saw her only on stage and work with her was amazing, and Sarah, by the way, Sarah.
Yes.
But and we have the singer Anil Murkus also joining us this year.
And you have a relationship with her, right?
Yeah, well, I try not to put family and business together.
Oh.
Okay. Yeah, she's my aunt, but whenever we're in the rehearsal room, we are just musicians, two artists, because we need to divide that thing. But it was nice. I mean, I think it was for her maybe first time she conducted. She's a soloist singer, so it was a lot of to mediate and to see how to fit in a new role. So, but it's great because you have songs also that they fit in the Caravan Orchestra style.
Okay, so let's get out there. What are the, if we had to say, what are the musical languages that come together in the Caravan Orchestra? What are they?
Musically, even, or
what are the different musical languages that come together? So, for example, Ilya brings obviously Yiddish music into the Caravan Orchestra.
Yes.
But a very broad understanding of Yiddish music, which can work with, well, let's call it, I like to call it New Yiddish music. Right?
New Age klezmer.
New Yiddish music.
New Yiddish music.
Yeah. Okay. So that's open to all kinds of different things. What other elements?
Yeah, but basically, what I love to bring is music from Lebanese tradition called modern Lebanese tradition. They are very similar to klezmer music and Yiddish music. Also, we bring Palestinian, Syrian, Egyptian music traditions, basically from the 20th century. And we had a lot, me and Ilya, we had a lot of discussion what should be sounds authentic. And I think we just released it that my own musical identity is extremely hybrid. It would be, traditional music, but it would have Western harmony and jazz arrangement. So for example, I bring small, short pieces of like dance pieces or songs like Fairuz or some dabke, or to try to give some kind of small taste.
Well, having mentioned that, it's a wonderful blend of tradition and new music. And you really feel that people creating this music know their tradition. And I think it's really important because we have new music very often without, the roots. And here we have these roots right there.
Yeah.
And there's all this new mixture. I would say there is also classical, there is also jazz. There's a bit of Stravinsky in this program.
I'm not surprised.
I mean, yeah, they brought song that we found Arabic lyrics for it. It was nice to see the common places.
The same tune existed in several different cultures, and we even kind of discussed where it came from originally, and there's still no closure on that. No, this recording is 1919. No, but we have this one from 1910. So who composed it? And we don't know. But it's great to share music and to not even know where it comes from originally.
No, sometimes just like it just me and Ilya would say how it should sound like Caravan should sound like.
Caravan has its own identity. That's great.
But I mean, the concert tonight is gonna be, if it's not raining, gonna be nothing like you saw before.
Really?
Yes.
Well, because every year it blows me away.
Well, this year
we should mention that the Caravan Orchestra won the Paris Peace Prize a couple of years ago, which is pretty amazing that happened. So congratulations for that. Yeah, I mean, one thing that I like to make the point, and this is, we're surprised. It's funny that it's a surprise every time that we discover this. But so we're surprised to find out that klezmer musicians working are like admiring and working closely with classical musicians already 100 years ago, because we tend to have a dichotomy there. And then we tend to think, well, there's classical music and there's jazz, but then we find out that great classical musicians admired great jazz musicians and vice versa. So one of my favorite stories about this is apparently Stravinsky walked into a jazz club, this story, and I think, who was it, Art Tatum, I think, who's playing the piano, and no, it was Charlie Parker.
Oh, okay.
Charlie Parker was playing. So of all the people, Charlie Parker is playing, and in the middle of his solo, he starts playing music from Petrushka, perfectly. because he spotted Stravinsky coming in. He knew who it was, and they said Stravinsky fell off his chair because the idea that this guy would know seamlessly. Wait a minute, he's playing Petrushka. So I mean, first of all, this is in days before the internet. That Charlie Parker knew what Stravinsky looked like and could come in and immediately. But that's how musicians feel about each other when they admire each other's music, right?
Yeah, and just one comment about this. Like, I think what's wonderful about Caravan is that you have the freedom to make this kind of combination of music. And I mean, it's just crazy way of mixing harmonies and melodies and techniques together. I don't know if they have some kind of music academy or orchestra that will allow you to have so much time to experiment during rehearsals.
And there is written material, totally arranged, finely arranged. Full orchestra arrangement and choir, and then we go into this crazy who is doing what, and there's negotiation between parts of the orchestra and the two conductors and the group, and singers can be doing their own thing, and it's just fantastic. And I think
that's great.
The singers are certainly loving that freedom. Sometimes you just go like this, and that means improvise.
Do something.
Do something,
Some with anxiety look in their faces, but wait, just like keep moving on.
I'll get used to it. Today will be
They will used to it, it's a new one.
Oh, by the way, we're streaming our concert, right? Yiddish
yes, the concert will be streamed tonight at 7:30 p.m. Berlin time. I had a great experience with Anil Goldsmith, a great clarinetist who's here, in the project that I was doing with him, where we just started rehearsing, and he completely just he never said to me once, what should I be doing? He just went right into it and just did it, you know, and that flexibility, which is something we believe very much in here. Here's Ilya, of people just having the confidence to try something. Come and join us.
Come.
That's an
We've been talking
principle.
about you.
Yeah.
We talked so much about
All the gossip.
No,
I'll sit here.
it was all true.
You sit here.
Where? Here?
Yeah.
Hello.
This is Ilya Shneyveys.
Yay!
Well, we look like we're related, but we're actually not. Or, I mean...
I got my look from Ilya. Once Ilya's hair started going a little gray, I decided I let my hair go gray too, right? Okay. All right, so we're good here. So this is Ilya. We should do
Well.
Yes, very serious here. So Ilya.
Yeah, what did I miss?
Well, we're not going to review that again because then we'd spend the entire time talking about what happened already.
Oh.
So, no.
Is that what we do at Yiddish Summer?
Yeah. Welcome.
Thank you.
How's Caravan this year?
It's very exciting.
It's very different, Jiryis tells me.
It's different in some ways. It's the same in some ways. It's...
How?
How?
How is it different and how is it the same?
Musicians. I mean, we're not to say that we had bad musicians in previous years, but we definitely have a very good group of musicians this year, and I feel like that is a big part of why we're even able to do this, because on top of all the stressful conditions and Corona and just last minute changes and everything, because we have such a good musical and patient group of musicians, we're able to really just get sit down and play.
That's great.
And that actually helps. Even if the logistics are sometimes a little bit funky, we're still, the music is also funky. Yeah,
okay.
That's
Are you doing conducted improvisation?
A little bit, yeah.
Less than in past years?
It's about the same. I don't know. We're doing a bit of, and I think this comes from my inability to make decisions and to write down. I don't like to write down an arrangement and then make it final, because then it's final and then it doesn't change.
Yeah.
So instead I just write maybe a lead sheet or something with some parts, and then we can change the form. We can change where the first section begins, or whether it repeats or whether it doesn't repeat. Things like that. I think on that level, and then also I think what I find amazing is that just I can also not do anything, and the music will still be great.
How does that work? People are going to wonder how many musicians are there, and instrumentalists and singers?
21 instrumentalists and 11 singers.
All right. So
Plus
I mean,
around.
anyone who comes from classical music is going to say, how is it possible that you can just let an orchestra go, and the music will be good?
Well, some of them say we feel something we didn't feel in different orchestras, and some of them told us this year, at least from the string section, we got for the first time some good feedback about our own performance. So this is really, make you feel great. And some of them, just roll their eyes, but it's okay. It's just for 5 minutes, and I think we try to speak in different kinds of musical mythology.
Okay, so I'm going to ask some specific questions. I'm going to try. So let's start with you, Paulina. So you come into the room, there are 11 singers, did you say?
Yeah.
11 singers, they're all different. How do you go about getting to know who they are, what they can do, and how do you figure out what you can do with them?
Well, usually it would start with singing together and hearing their voices, which was kind of the case here, but I didn't have that much time to learn about them before I started teaching them. So it was teaching and hearing them at the same time. We went into some songs, I threw some texts at them, some sheet music, taught them something by ear. Actually, the first thing was that there was a niggun that we did together with the orchestra and the singers, all together, all in one room. That's how the whole thing started. And I heard that some of them were able to improvise and wanted to improvise. I also heard that they had very different voices, different tempers, different vocal placing and this and that, plus different languages. And then Sarah had put them into groups.
Sarah Meyerson.
Sarah Meyerson, who was originally, in the heart of this project. And that saved me a bit because I don't like putting people in groups. They would rebel and go somewhere else. And then they were in groups, and I said, this group does that, this group does that. You go with the first section, you go with the second section, and we did rounds and stuff. And I saw that they were up for it, and they were happy to do some improvisation on top of the 4-part harmonies. And from there,
You had written out the 4-part harmonies?
Some of them I'd written out. Sarah helped to put. I had soprano, alto, tenor, and bass arrangement. At the last moment, we rearranged it, and then we had space for another a cappella song, and then I put it in. One of the songs is composed by Sarah, a beautiful song in Hebrew. So
It's a premiere for this project.
Yesterday was yeah. So it's a mixture of ways to teach and to perform and to study and to learn and to make music.
So I'm imagining. I hope that there are vocal coaches and choir leaders and singers who are out there watching this, and they're going to think, how do you learn how to be able to do what you know how to do? I mean, you have so many different skills that you can do with those people. How did you get all of those skills? Did you study them somewhere in a conservatory that taught you how to do all that, or how did you gain those skills?
I did study musicology and piano in the conservatory in Russia, but it was classical,
Okay.
academic. Yeah, and then I went and I studied from various singers, not just Yiddish singers, but from instrumentalists as well. I picked up a lot from instrumental play, like my husband plays klezmer and Turkish clarinet, and I copied some of his stuff. Plus I heard muezzins shouting from the mosques in Tatarstan where I lived. So I have this mixture in my head, and on top of classical musical education, I want to bring all these things into choirs. So when I have singers who can improvise and who want to improvise in other styles, I give them a mode and they sing in that mode. They know what it is and they go for it. I don't know, it's just learning and
Okay, how about you? Your musical education that makes you equipped to be able to do this.
Yeah, it's the lack of musical education.
Keep it
not
that
really.
way.
I don't. Well, I miss something. I miss not having a classical education. Maybe I think I miss it. I'd never spent enough hours actually practicing my instrument, and getting the technique and getting the. So my practice is very unstructured. My learning is very unstructured. I learn, but I try to learn from everything. Also from learning by doing. So, for example, yesterday's concert was a learning experience. We did some things that we didn't plan to do, and some of them worked well, and some of them didn't. So,
Don't tell anyone.
Yeah, but you know, but it's okay because I know that today there will be other things that will work and some other things at once, and you know, music is a process-based process. So it is not, there's not a final goal where you play the piece perfectly. It's more like you are in the process, and if you're not in the process, you're not really participating in it. If you're not there in the moment. So yeah, I learned a lot. I had a little bit of music, a little bit of piano lessons in my early childhood, and then I was playing rock music from listening to recordings, and then I was then I went to and started going to klezmer festivals, and then I was learning, you know, from klezmer musicians, and again, not only klezmer music but anything, and also had a bit of like a part-time music school sometime in my 20s where I learned more about music theory, which is, you know, music theory is amazing, and it helps to go to a conservatory to learn it, but you don't have to. You can learn music theory. You can create your own music theory if you want, and also yeah, I learned a lot in Weimar actually. You know, talking about continuity, I learned a lot from your workshops, for example. Well, one of the things we did at the rehearsal, where we were playing this tune, and it was kind of like everybody was just playing the melody all the time, and it was okay, but so I just asked them to, you know, play the melody, but only have two people play the melody at the same time. And, you know, I didn't specify much more than that, and then we just played it, and it sounded beautiful, because everybody had to listen, you know, listen who else is playing. And of course it wasn't two people, it was always a little bit more than two people, but the music that came out of it was just beautiful. And I didn't have to do anything, so I just told them, make music, and they made music, and this is something I learned from you. So.
Yeah, this is very, very interesting, and I'm interested in this principle in general, that on the one hand we kind of live in a world where we think everything has to be spelled out, but on the other hand that takes away the responsibility of us to pay attention to what's going on and recognize and see what's going on, and it makes us less intelligent rather than more intelligent. A great example of that is a few years ago, I forget the names of the towns, but there were 3 towns or 4 towns in Europe where they decided to take away all the traffic signs, completely take them all away.
Oh.
And they were interested in what would happen in those towns. Those towns had fewer accidents than all the other towns, because those are towns where people come in there and they have to pay attention to each other and actually see what's going on, right, and use their intelligence.
Yeah.
So very often, you know, we think everything should be spelled out, but actually that something more interesting happens when we're forced by not enough information. And by the way, that's something that I think in Brave Old World, in a lot of my work, I also feel that, like in contrast to a Hollywood movie, where these days, where you go in there and it's supposed to like grab you the instant you get in there, and it never lets you go. Like, so you're constantly every second, right? But then I often come out of an experience like that feeling kind of empty and exhausted. But something where it offers you something, and it says, you have to come halfway to me, to engage in me. This has always been my goal as an artist, to create something which is half full and half empty, so that the audience has to fill in. They have to come into it and live in it and investigate it in order to get the meaning out of it. Yeah.
Well, I mean, music is, or at least it has been for possibly most parts of history, a participatory experience.
That's right.
Not just passive listening, but I mean, every act of listening to music doesn't have to be passive listening.
That's right.
It's active listening, but you know, in a lot of cultures, and you know, and especially that's why I like traditional cultures, broadly speaking, because you're not just listening to music; you're also engaging it by dancing, by clapping, by just, you know, they're different things, and
Yeah.
there's no reason why classical music, for example, doesn't have to be that. It
Yes.
doesn't have to have more of that. It doesn't have to have a little bit more of everybody participating in something together, rather than there's a performance and we're spectators.
That's right. Jiryis, how about your musical background?
I have to admit that what I use in Caravan Orchestra doesn't relate to what I do in academic. I mean, I'm doing my PhD right now in music composition, but I do noises there. I do this modern contemporary stuff with electronics, and Caravan is my comfort zone. It's something that, even if I want to make something like this inside an institute, especially in the States where I am, it's not really possible. It's still, you can be open-minded there and modernist, and you can, but to find something like especially the topic of multicultural ensembles, to bring this kind of noise sounds. It still does. It's very rare to find it. So this is my comfort zone, and what I bring here is what I basically. Of course, I bring stuff I studied, but I bring things that I taught myself how to do it, which is process of listening, process of learning the buzuk, process of researching. I call it hybrid Middle Eastern music from the 1950s and 60s, and a little bit more also. I mean, before that. So I bring that, and I have to admit, I also. It's not like I like only the Caravan experience, but I like working with him because I study many techniques also that to deal with this orchestra. So you see, like you say, okay, I'm going to bring my own techniques. I'm going to things maybe I said in music theory in music academy, and but I think another 60% is what I learned from Caravan each year techniques. Okay, so with this, in this piece we deal it in that way. We teach it in that way. Maybe I can talk to the people who play Western music education, you know, with classical music. I can talk to them in terms that they will feel comfortable with. And the Middle Eastern ones, I'll talk to terms they will feel comfortable with, but it's based on my own practice of the buzuk. So I pick some stuff. In my own life, I really hope to bring the work of how we do it in Caravan into this academic area, which is not really easy to do that.
Do you think that there could be a conservatory or a university of music that would encourage this kind of free creativity? Is it possible for that to happen in a let's call it academic situation?
I think it will be depend where and who will give money or give democracy to do something like this. I know some schools in the States trying to talk about diversity, so it's not just about the music style, but it's about diversity. Which theory is more important to talk about it? Which tradition is more important? Why we need to do world music ensemble and traditional ensemble and jazz combo and classical combo? Why we can't try to find something new? So I think it's about diversity, and I think that if there's a platform like here, that we can come every summer and do that, that's wonderful. If it will happen in different places, I mean, let's wait and see. I don't know. Let's see.
Okay.
In Amsterdam and Rotterdam, they have experimented with it.
And how did it work?
Very good.
Yeah?
Yes, really.
Glad to hear
There's
that.
another one.
No, I know that in Rotterdam there's a kind of a world music program or something like that, but I wasn't sure that they were this free with it. Like what Jiryis and they've been describing, it's that free. I think the difficult thing is to combine, like what Paulina, you were speaking earlier about, this combination of freedom and rootedness. That it's difficult to make both of those, to teach both of those, right, in a respectful way.
The thing is that when you're in a college or in an educational institution, you need to teach the roots first, and some kind of roots. You can't just spread yourself too thinly musically. I think we all come from a specific or two specific traditions, and then we bring all these other mixtures in. I don't know how possible it would be to know, and how many styles in depth. So in order to teach the young generation to mix them, you need to for them to know what to mix. So it's quite tricky.
I'm interested in the question.
At what point do you introduce the mixture?
Yeah, I'm interested very much though in the question of whether we can teach creative freedom from the beginning. And I tell you something that I've noticed in Berlin a lot. I've seen this many times now, that young Roma kids, usually boys, but I've seen it with girls too, who have just gotten a little accordion, and they definitely cannot play the accordion yet. Like, they have no idea about what's going on there, but they stand there and move their hands on it like they were the greatest master ever, right? And it's just like junk, 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 but total with aplomb, like, here I am, great musician. And then you see them 6 months later, and there'll be little junk, 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 junk. Meanwhile, they've been practicing this kind of virtuosic body language and gesture and being totally on top of it the whole time. And bit by bit, it turns into real music. But the whole time, they've been practicing being a virtuoso, even before they could play.
So they
And-
have a goal,
and
they have an idea.
They have a goal,
Yeah.
but they've been practicing virtuosity before they had a language to do it in.
Great.
And I mean, you know, Roma musicians that come up that way are famous for being phenomenal virtuosi.
Yeah.
And we tend to think, well, you have to learn bit by bit, and gradually you become faster and faster and faster. And that certainly that method works too. But I'm fascinated that there's this other way of doing this as well.
There's a video of a Victor Wooten masterclass. Victor Wooten is a great jazz funk bass player who, I think it's called Music as a Language or something. But basically, he talks about how he was growing up, and his brothers were already in a band. They were teenagers, and they gave him like a toy guitar or something, so that he was 3 or 4 or 7, I don't know what. And he was just rocking out with them on this toy guitar, and he really was trying to copy them even without the music.
Right.
And then he got a guitar with strings or something. But basically that was the same thing. And now he's he's a really good bass player.
Yeah.
Partly because of that. He was practicing the act of music, and he's comparing this actually to or how kids learn language. Like you don't have to be perfect. You don't have to learn the way you have to speak to learn the language.
Yeah,
basically.
it's top down versus bottom up learning, right? This is kind of top down learning where you start by kind of the whole thing, and then you fill it in by bit by bit, rather than starting with the little building blocks and try to build the big picture out of that. So Paulina, I have a question for you.
Yeah, I deepen my thoughts about learning a language first before you start writing poetry in it. But okay, what's the question?
However, I can say something to you about that,
Yeah.
which is that it has been found that children, before they are born, already know the melody of their own language. So that when you're born, you recognize someone who speaks your melody and someone who doesn't speak your melody. So it means that actually you're working with these top-down kinds of structures before you have the words
Yeah.
that go into it.
Yeah,
And that's kind of
true.
yeah. So, what are you most excited about in the working with the Caravan Choir? Can you say that?
Ooh, do I need to pick one thing?
No, pick 3 things.
Oh, it's okay. These 2 guys and Amal, they're 3 things. Okay, would that work? They're just great musicians to work with. Just experiencing the styles, the approaches is just fantastic.
Okay.
The music, the sound, it's just great. So many things about it, on all levels.
Okay, well, I'm hoping very much that the rain will stop by then. So we've been very lucky so far. This has been happening in the afternoon, and then it clears up in the evening like it did yesterday. So maybe we'll be lucky again. Let's hope. Do any of you have questions that you would like to ask these 3 remarkable people? I think you should feel free to ask them anything you want, and don't be afraid to think that, oh, it's not an educated enough question or anything. Just ask them what you like to ask them. This is your chance to ask 3 amazing people whatever you ever wanted to ask them.
Not anything.
Well, they can say they want to
What's
answer.
the meaning of life?
Life is a fountain.
Okay, it's not a fountain.
Right, exactly. No questions?
Comments, complaints?
Will the concert be live streamed?
Yes.
Yeah, we already
Great.
talked about it. Yeah.
The concert will be live streamed. Well, then let me ask you, what other things that you would like? I mean, I don't know exactly everything you might like me to ask you. So, do you have some
That's
things
your freedom, Al. You just do
That
what
is
you
my freedom, but I give you the freedom that, is there something that you would like to talk about in context of Caravan or Yiddish Summer Weimar, or maybe the song project? You can talk about that again. Ilya, I know that you're a little bit sad and out there in left field that you're only doing Caravan this year, and
I'm also doing the dance workshop.
that's true. You're doing the dance
in 2
workshop.
weeks.
That's right.
Do like a mini caravan.
Okay.
Well, my comment would be just the main overall thought is that with all the pandemic restrictions and the world becoming a bit crazy with the weather and with the all these global changes and political shakings and all that, not to mention what's happening in Weimar tomorrow, things are happening, and with all that, what I find amazing is musicians' human connection and support. So above all these styles and above all these professional communication, we have this human understanding and support. and I'm appreciating it much more this year. It may be more challenging because of all these things, but that makes me appreciate support on a personal level, when we hold each other's hand in rehearsal, and on a professional level, when I forget a line and Ilya reminds me what to do. And I think we have it for each other, and the singers and the orchestra, we have great visual contact with the organizers of the festival. I think we have it, and I'm really grateful for that, so thank you.
We're trying.
Yeah.
And that's great.
Yeah.
And that is the goal of Yiddish Summer Weimar, and it's also my belief, or I would say my knowledge, like you just said, that there is a level that we can connect with each other that is much deeper than any political conflict, and that I also believe that when we grow that level and nurture that level, like I said in the beginning, that it opens up spaces for political imagination that we otherwise can't have. You know, some people have called it meta-political level, but meta usually means above, and my experience of this is that it's below. It's like a sub-political level, but in a deep sense, right? Right, a human level.
We have an online question.
Yeah,
actually, you were just talking about goals a little bit. And somebody was asking, is there a mission statement of the Caravan project, or a general
Yeah,
mission?
don't go. You might know.
Is there a mission statement?
This
of
is a mission. Yeah, what is our mission? Well, this is something. It's our philosophy. Our yes. It's interesting because from the beginning it was sort of unclear to me what is the goal of this project, and I was not the one who invented this project. I was just asked to be part of it and make it happen. So and I guess, you know, on the surface it is a project where like students from different cultures and different countries come together to play music, and actually I think that's what it is. And I think, you know, I like that there are things that like an orchestra for peace or whatever, but I don't know, I don't think we're orchestra like that. Our mission is not to be an orchestra for peace. I'd like to think that our mission is to be an orchestra for music, and you know, we're here to play music, and I think just to understand other people, understand each other. And I think I told someone recently that, like, if you have an instrument in your mouth, you cannot talk about politics at the same time. You're busy playing, right? So, and it doesn't mean that we don't talk about politics, but it means that you're kind of connecting to other people on a different level. And, you know, much of politics is, I think, very superficial and you know, abused. Like, the idea of democracy is being abused by politicians who know how to trick you into voting for, you know, for whatever. So, you know, I don't like to talk about politics. I like to talk about music, or even better, I like to make music. So, you know, usually we make music and we talk about other things that, or just, you know, party or something. And I think that's a good thing to do once in a while, and you know, the fact that we have this opportunity to do this is pretty amazing. So I would like to thank the festival once again for providing this. And I think, I don't know, from what I understand from the participants, everybody is enjoying at least some aspects of this. So we're doing something right.
I would like just to add one thing to him, that it's not just that. I think the mission of Caravan Orchestra, if you want to say it or not, you know, it's a direct mission or not direct mission, is to create a community, musical community. So you can walk in Weimar and every summer and see people you know that practice with you, or do collaborations together, and you know, to make it bigger and bigger and bigger circle, and suddenly you have this. If Caravan would continue, just imagine how many people will know each other and will play with each other and potentially collaborate with each other between here and Israel, and you know, it could spread. So I think this is the great thing about Caravan. It's a musical community that in 3D sometimes exists. This kind of community, at least in my area.
Yeah. I think I would like to say something, and I'll take the total responsibility of this for myself.
As well.
Yeah.
Sorry,
okay. Go ahead.
I've got a very practical question. how do people become members of the Caravan
Yeah.
Orchestra? Do they get selected? Do they have to apply? How do you get people together?
You can be a part of the orchestra, but you have to be under 26.
Sorry,
I mean, you can.
sorry.
Yeah. You can say you're under 26 and we're going to check. But, yeah, there's an application process.
Application, yeah.
And people send submissions usually, and you know, we obviously try to not discriminate against anyone by any, except by the number of instruments that we need for a balanced orchestra. So you know, we can't only have clarinets. So
We had 5
No.
clarinets.
we had
The first year.
one year, well, four or five
The
something.
most smaller piece that we played.
So are there auditions, or is it
People send in there's a form you have to fill in. You have to send in some video or audio of you performing, so that we know at least something about you, unless you have participated in the past. And we did, and actually everyone was amazing who applied, and we just had to limit it to, you know, like we cannot have 2 drummers. It would be too much logistically. So you know, one drummer this year, the other drummer next year. Well.
Are the people only from Germany, Israel, and Palestine, or somebody was asking, are there other Arab countries or other European countries, or?
I mean, technically, it worked. We had people from. Once we had the Syrian girl playing the piano.
Right.
So, I mean, it's have different progress, but in other words, we don't check nationality or ethnicity.
People, they have to live in the country, like in either.
They need to have to address
either of the countries.
That's all.
In one of the countries, but they can be from different countries originally. So that's more. It's not a philosophical thing. It's more of a grand conditions.
Right.
Bureaucracy stuff. Yeah.
I wanted to say, and I don't want to go into too much detail on this, but in all of the different places where we could do something with people coming from conflict region, or where there is some kind of a conflict, I want to be clear that the fact that, at least for me, this is my personal statement, this is not an official organizational statement, this is my personal statement, that for me, I don't want this to suggest that there is no conflict. There is a conflict. The conflict is real. And it shouldn't be that because people can meet outside of that conflict, that people assume that our message is, look, there's no problem. There is a problem. There's a problem there. There are problems in many places of the world. And this isn't supposed to make that go away or for it to be less real. It's supposed to be what it is. And to the extent that it has a political vector, it's supposed to create a different kind of connection, which hopefully can eventually lead to solving the conflict in more humane ways. That's my point on that.
That could be our mission. I'm done.
Among Israeli participants, you know, just like I start to use the word shared society.
Shared society.
Because we don't have to love each other, we don't have to agree with each other, and it's okay to take a break from discussing politics. Very much. It's a great idea, but in case you insist to discuss it, not you specifically, I'm talking to the musicians who will be in front of me. And it's like we need to have, you know, how to behave to each other.
Right.
I mean, and not only to behave, it's just that to acknowledge that there's 2 people living next to each other, and we can go to each other to listen to music and make music bands together. In that sense, you can do different projects if you want, and we can discuss politics and go to back to the hotel and go back to practice the day after. And to be present in the music, and that's it. So, yeah, it's not canceling our differences, but at least sometimes in Weimar you have a break. You know, as you said, it's natural zone, and this is a great opportunity to musicians to discover themselves.
Yeah, this is an oasis for the caravan to take a temporary stop.
Look at this. Don't do that.
Yeah. Well, I asked you and with Natalia also. Is she here this year, by the way?
No.
Oh, that's too bad.
Pictures. She didn't come this year.
Okay, all right.
She told me I can't do it emotionally. It's like a romantic breakup every time the caravan ends.
She can't handle it anymore. Oh, I understand. Well, I had asked Jiryis and Natalia to joined me in a conference, a video conference with an organization in Israel called Roots, which is a Israeli-Palestinian peace initiative there. Craig Udelman's brother is Saul Udelman. So is an important part of that organization, and we've invited them here before to discuss how they handle conflict resolution. And what I took away from that, which it might not be really what they say, but this is what I took away from it, which I thought was very beautiful, is that they don't yet see the solution, but they know that whatever that solution might be, it has to start with totally embracing the humanity of both sides. And before we get there, we can't really realistically think about a good solution. And I like that very, very much. And I think, like I said, that's the Caravan Orchestra is not a tool for doing that, but it's one of the things that the Caravan Orchestra may help accomplish.
Yes, I agree.
And choir.
And choir.
Yes.
I'm sorry, it's in use.
Yes,
2
yes,
years.
yes,
to get,
yes,
I should mention that the Caravan Orchestra and Choir is the brainchild of Jiryis Murkus, who's sitting over there.
Yeah,
so
very
please come over
humbly,
here for a
Andrea.
second. We've been talking about this as if the inventor of it weren't even here, but here he is. And please come and join us for a minute, and you tell us what you thought Caravan Orchestra was all about.
Well,
I'm sitting up.
it was our brain. No, it was three people's brainchild, I think. We were sitting down for
That
lunch.
shows how weird it was.
Yeah.
Child of three people.
Brainchild.
No, we were sitting down for lunch in Haifa University
You and Abby. And
with Abby, you and me. We had a trip to Israel together.
I remember. So long ago.
So, I think 2016, I think, or something. And we were thinking, what can we do? And then we thought, well, you know, I think we as Yiddish Summer know something about Yiddish music. And Abigail said, well, I think we know something about Arabic music here. And then the rest is history. It was very simple, actually. And then she came up with the ideas of, you know, asking Jiryis. We thought, let's ask Ilya. And then it all started.
I remember we gave a little workshop in her in her class.
That was fun.
And well, for me, what was really, really moving about this was that there were two Palestinian girls in that class, and we'd been playing some really straight up the line klezmer music, like Yiddish.
What we consider Yiddish.
What we consider very Yiddish music. And these two Palestinian girls came up afterwards, and one of them said, "So we're ready to come now." And I said, well, it's not happening now. It's happening in the summer, right? When were we there? A few months earlier. Right? But we want to come now. And I said, well, it's just, but it was like, we're ready to come now. We're ready to come now. Let's do it. There was like no, and I think we both looked at each other and said, we think this project could work.
Yeah, this can fly.
Yeah. And I felt like I wanted to say to them, you do realize that this was Jewish music, right? And you are Palestinian. And it's like, and I was like, no, that's irrelevant. They were turned on by the music and they wanted to do it. It was like, no, we want to come now. And they weren't ready to be patient for it either. And there was something that was very, very inspiring about that. And it just made us feel like, well, we got to do something. Do you remember? That was really
of course.
beautiful.
But I mean, also the fact, you know, is this Jewish music, or are these melodies not used by other people? And we found out that there are quite some melodies used played by many peoples of this world. And the fascinating thing is like to hear how everybody plays this melody, and then really to understand, oh yeah, that's the difference. Right. That's inspiring. Oh, I can play it this way or this way, and then we really start understanding this stuff better, which is actually comparing musicology, which is at the very beginning of everything we do here. Like that was the first time that vergleichende Musikwissenschaft.
That's right.
When the whole ethnomusicology thing came up, and then went into other things, but let's compare things and understand them better by doing so. And that's and this is some of the tunes are really astounding, and to understand, and then you really understand what makes each style specific. So that was also, and from this comes more. We're researching more. We're looking at other things.
Yeah,
so
it's just been opening up. It's enormously been opening up. A lot of people wonder about Yiddish Summer Weimar. Are you doing the same thing year after year? Wow, not at all. It's like every
You
single
couldn't
year.
step into the same river.
No, but I mean, it just changes so much from year to year. If somebody had said 5 years ago, like, here's look ahead 5 years. This is what Yiddish summer is in 5 years. I would have said there isn't a path from here to there. I don't know how we get there that way. So, all right, people, we have to go because we have another meeting in 15 minutes.
have a
on the
sound
inside.
check.
We have to go.
We have a sound check.
Thank you very, very much.
See you
Pretty good. Really good.
No pressure.
By the way, where?
Where? At the Ava.
On
The
YouTube.
stage at Ava. On YouTube. On YouTube. The eternal interview.
Thank you.